Mr. Doran.
If you can. Regarding the borough contribution, I know you're working also on your budget, and I appreciate this conversation because we do need to be working together. Is that $60 million figure the one that you're anticipating putting in your recommended budget or proposed budget?
Good question. So I do a full release on April 3rd. We'll do a state of the borough and an update on the budget. I think for your discussions and deliberations tonight, what I would expect is to look at numbers based on what was provided last year. That was $54 million. It gets a little bit complicated because $50 million of that last year was taxed, $4 million was supplemental. So as we look to the future, obviously there's discussions about how we raise those additional revenues. But I would say if you were to build a bridge or a package, I would use the baseline numbers from last year, which was $54 million from local contribution and that $340 from the state additional to the BSA.
I would suggest the 60 if we're going to assume the 340 from the state. There's a certain assumption there. And I think 60 is an appropriate assumption, starting point for the borough. If we do 54 from the borough, as a worst case scenario, I think we should be looking at the worst case scenario from the state, which is 0. And I think that's unrealistic. So I would go with the 60, 340 as a good balance between the two.
Ms. Maple.
I agree with Mr. Doran. I'd like to do 60, 340. I say that because I don't think when the time came I would ever entertain a budget at 54. So I'd rather start, given I wouldn't like to entertain that either, but I'd rather start at 60 and 340 if we could do that.
Was that Ms. Marati?
I just concur with Mr. Doran and Ms. Maple.
I think that's a majority, so we are safe to assume starting at 60 million as a local contribution.